And good evening, East Africa. Welcome to yet a brand new and also exciting week of The Desk. I trust you're living well and you're COVID-free. Now more than ever, I am Shadrach Shagaf Kisame. Now, thank you very much for always keeping yourselves glued and locked onto U24 television. We trust that every time you watch us, you're inspired, you're motivated, and above all, you are educated. Like tonight, you're going to be educated and inspired, because tonight is actually going to be somewhat a very inspirational episode, especially for the girl child down there, for the women. I like to talk to the women because, like the saying goes, educate a woman or educate a girl and then you educate a nation. Now, thank you very much for always keeping yourselves on The Desk, the continent's leading intellectual platform, actually the highest platform for solution finding. Now, tonight, the lady in the chair, ladies and gentlemen, I tell you, she is a doctor. She is very smart. The first time I interacted with her, I actually thought I wasn't that smart, although I'm somewhat very confident. Dr. Christine Katusime, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
The first time I interacted with you, I thought I wasn't smart.
No, you are smart.
You are beating my understanding.
No, not really.
My reasoning.
You're as intelligent as I am.
Oh, okay. Actually, that sounds great. So how are you? Talk to me. Tell me. What's happening in your world?
I am excellent, and thank you. I am honored to be on this show.
Correct.
With you.
All right. Now, Dr. Christine here is vying to be woman MP for Nakawa West. Do I get that right?
Member of Parliament.
Woman member of Parliament.
No.
Member of Parliament.
Yes, sir.
She's vying to be member of Parliament. So what is the difference, actually, if you're to school us?
Woman member of Parliament is for a district.
Okay.
But for a constituency, you will have a member of Parliament. So the constituency of Nakawa West, which was created on July 31st, as of this year, 2020, is just a constituency. So therefore, the representative will be a member of Parliament.
Kulika nominations.
Amina.
How was it? I saw your pictures on social media.
Oh, it was excellent.
Were you panicking?
No. I was extremely confident and grateful to the people of Nakawa West that backed me and fronted me to represent them.
So let me ask,
the upcoming 11th Parliament.
Oh, okay. So let me ask, Christine. Do you guys have like signatures also? Like you take signatures to Electoral Commission, like for what is disturbing our candidates for presidency?
Oh yes, because there has to be the backing or the voice of the people in showing that you are their choice to represent them and represent their views adequately in Parliament. Therefore, every vying or aspiring member of Parliament should is required to come up with to collect a minimum of 10 signatures from the constituency.
Yes. So can I forge them? It's as easy as.
When you talk of forgery, I don't think I'm an expert in that field.
Okay. All right. Now, Dr. Christine, actually, before we even dive into the discussion, where I want you to talk to the women out there who think maybe politics is for the guys only or the men only, and there's been this stigma and all those things. Before you even go there, you're a medical doctor, correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's just talk about this. The corona, is there a light? Coronavirus, is there a light at the end of the tunnel? I want you to assure Ugandans from you as a medical expert.
There is definitely light at the end of the tunnel, but just to look at the history of coronaviruses. Coronaviruses have been around for years. Actually, the common cold is due to coronavirus, but it's more of a mild form.
Okay, when you say common cold, no, in Uganda we talk about.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the common cold is due to a coronavirus. However, coronaviruses have an interesting nature to them, which cuts across all viruses in general. They have the ability to mutate and to adapt to new hosts. Now, because of that, in about 2003, we saw a new coronavirus that came to the scene, which was, that time it was the SARS, which in full is the severe acute respiratory syndrome virus. And it was actually quite lethal but the fatality rate was, or the mortality rate was really low, about 9.6%.
So what you mean
about
is
10%, meaning for every 10 people that were infected with SARS, the possibility of a number of people dying was 1 out of 10.
Okay.
Then about a decade later, which is in 2013, we have the MERS coronavirus coming up, which is the Middle East virus. And for it was a bit unique because it hailed from, it was mainly within the Middle East. Though there were reports that it hailed from China as well.
Okay.
Its mortality rate was higher, about 35 to 40%, meaning among every 10 people who were infected, you expected 3 to 4 people to die.
Okay.
Now, of course, as of 2019, we had the novel or the new coronavirus, 2019, coming up. Of course, it caused quite a shaking and a stir because, in the field of medicine, we have diseases that have been crossing nations and boundaries because of increased travel.
Okay.
So if you have an illness, for example, the coronavirus is a host to the horseshoe bats in China. But then how comes it is causing havoc in Canada and in the US? How did it get there? It is because of global travel.
Okay.
So this time around, we are seeing an increased number of people affected and infected with the novel coronavirus. Of course, because of the ability of these viruses to mutate,
Yes.
we are having a good number of people that are being diagnosed with asymptomatic coronavirus disease.
Okay.
Which actually makes control and management
somewhat hard.
a little difficult because, of course, as people on the front line, we expect to manage and treat people that actually have symptoms.
Okay.
But then we have, increasing number of people moving around, carriers of this virus, and yet they are symptomatic or don't have symptoms. So, of course, when it comes to disease control and epidemic control in developing countries, it poses a new challenge because things like tracking of patients is especially difficult.
Yes.
Because if you have one person, for example, in visiting a mall or visiting a taxi park, now they're in contact with hundreds of people. And
Correct.
each of those people is going to go to contact other hundreds of people. So contact tracing has really been a challenge in developing countries. In terms of what we've done, of course, the government has tried, but in my opinion hasn't done enough. Because you see, disease not only has the medical front, we also have the psychosocial aspect to deal with.
Correct.
And then we also have the religious aspect to deal with. Now, for recently, the government, made past SOPs and advocated for churches to only avail services to 70 people. So now what happens to the larger population? And you see, lots of families are struggling with stigma because these viruses are interesting to an extent that as long as a person in a community gets to know that you actually had it or you had a loved one with it, you will be stigmatized.
Yes, the stigma is terrible.
Yes. So the government needs to review some of those SOPs that were actually passed, because not only 70 people are in need of psychosocial support. So in terms of the medical...
Sorry, Dr. Christine, but can't you have 70 and you divide services throughout the day? You say 2 hours, the first 70, then the next 70, 2 hours, and like that.
To what end? Because now you cannot convince me that the pastor is going to be working from 5 a.m. till 5 a.m. the following day. You get? The services won't actually be the same. I mean, you're a Christian, you go to church.
Yes,
you cannot
correct.
tell me that the first service is going to be the same as the second service. Then each of these people who are affected and infected need counseling and psychosocial support. Then each of the communities, require religious leaders to stand with them. It might not be a pastor, it might not be a reverend, but it might be a sheikh. It might be, an LC leader that is standing with them.
All right, so I'm getting your narrative here. You're saying to combat this, we need a 360 degrees. Yeah. The social impact, the medical aspect of it. So why is this social psychological thing actually very, very important? Because I mean, can someone live without it?
The answer is no. Because when you look at, for example, the ongoing epidemic of HIV/AIDS, in the early 80s, a good number of people didn't actually die of AIDS per se. It was the psychosocial complications of HIV/AIDS. So we had things like stigma.
Yeah, the stigma was terrible.
The ostracization, where you find the whole community is ostracizing this patient, plus the family. No one wants to, interact with them. So it had actually, a major impact on people that time. Till, of course, we had icons like the late Diana, seen interacting with HIV positive patients, and that is actually what changed the world view towards interacting with the HIV/AIDS patients. Okay. So it's the same thing with the coronavirus victims, because people on the whole actually fear coronavirus more than HIV.
Yes,
and these are published studies. There is ongoing research. Why? Because of course coronavirus is more lethal than HIV. HIV will probably give you 10-15 years without showing the signs, but coronavirus will not wait that long. So the minute a person will find out that there is an individual within the community, even if the person had been discharged from quarantine and given a certificate of clearance,
it's not enough.
I guarantee you that person plus the house plus the relatives will all be subject to stigma. To
stigma, they'll be looked at as... Anyway, so Dr. Christine, that was actually a digress, but you've broken it down for the people out there, for everyone to understand. And but like you said, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
If they use the 360, everything to combat this should be put in place. So the churches should be left open.
Yes, they should, because you see, actually they should be open 360, 100%. Why? Because other than stigma, there's been documented evidence of anxiety, basically anxiety and neuroses, actually tripling on the world scale, where you have lots of people are being anxious. There are lots of phobias. People are actually locked up in their houses. They don't want to go outside. People have been reported to be reverting to alcohol, because there is a notion that the alcohol will keep them from getting coronavirus, which is actually not true. So you find a person drinking, showering in alcohol, and dosing. Yes, these are published studies. They are all over the internet. I welcome you to go and actually have a look at them.
Actually,
but on the whole, churches should actually be
open.
Yes.
Open, without restrictions, nothing.
No terms and conditions.
No terms and conditions. Now you have it right. Dr. Lucy, let me go for a short break. When we come back, now we talk about the politics. All right, now the lady in the chair just told government and everyone out there who is advising or stakeholders involved that the churches actually should be opened without terms or conditions. Now do not go away. The desk returns in a bit. And welcome back. Now, if you're just joining us, I'm afraid you missed the very first insightful segment of the desk, actually, where Dr. Christine was taking us through the history of the coronaviruses, what is happening now and the future. And she actually says there's light at the end of the tunnel. If only we could combat this 360. She says that the social cycle aspect of it has been actually avoided by government, but they should actually consider it so that we can actually combat this. Now, you can follow this very lovely episode of The Desk on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Do it for Shadrach Kisame. Do it for U24 Television. And actually, if you have someone in the diaspora or they are not on TV, call them and tell them that The Desk is live on Shadrach Kisame's YouTube. Now, you can actually catch these episodes that you've not been able to catch on TV or catch live on my YouTube channel, Shadrach Kisame, everywhere, and also for U24 Television. Dr. Christine, are you on social media?
Yes, sir.
How come? Because you see, when we were in school, science students, tebagala bintu ebyo, social media, what? How come you're there?
Social media is actually determining actually, if you look at the politics of the world. For example, if you look at the race between Donald Trump
and Biden, yes.
And Biden.
Yes.
It is largely based on social media reviews, social media. Basically, it's the battle is on social media. So yes, we understand that there is a physical back and forth going on between the candidates, but there is a lot going on social media. On
social media.
Yes.
So if someone there, and by the way, the number on your screen, please, do not call me wanting to talk to Dr. Christine. She's going to give you her details. Then you can reach her right there. So give them your social media platforms.
My social media platforms on Instagram, on Twitter and Facebook, Dr. Katusime Christine.
Dr. Katusime Christine. So they can easily find you there. Yes. All right. So let's talk about the politics, because you just told us and you just assured the Nakawa West people that you're coming in as their MP.
Yes.
Why they should vote for you in the next segment. But for right now, I just want you to talk to a woman out there, because women have actually been sidelines, and we actually tend to see men taking a front row seat in active politics, with policies. When a man comes up with, they actually given head of policy what and all those things. Why do you think the women have actually, before we even go to what the woman out there should do to position themselves, why do you think that women have actually not been considered more as the men?
Actually, that's a good question. The reason as to why women have been sidelined up until 2020 is mainly because, of course, there are a number of issues. Politics has been largely monetized. For a candidate to actually be elected to office, there's been increasing use of money to buy votes. Now, most female candidates actually do not have access to these financial privileges that most men have.
Are you indirectly saying that is part of the elections right now? People really, really buy votes?
Oh, yes, they do. Come to the ground and we see. People actually do buy votes. People buy signatures. That has been, from history till this day, people have been buying votes. So other than that, there are financial constraints. Of course, highlighting the high nomination fees. Of course, for Member of Parliament, the nomination fees were set at 3 million. Now, not every female candidate had that kind of money. And even those that had access to those funds or finances were not willing to back women.
Okay.
And then you have lots of communities not backing women because of a gender bias. Because you see, in most societies, females are actually seen as the caregivers at home.
Yes.
So when a lady steps up to actually step into a decision-making role or a leadership role, the community will actually, very few communities will back them. A very good example is, look at our country now. How many female candidates or females have been in the chair of the major political parties? Has a female candidate ever led, for example, FDC, or led DP, or led NRM for that matter?
No.
So there is also an unconscious bias whereby...
so the biases.
Yes, we are talking about...
the biases, where people are biased.
Yes, the people, mainly people in the community are biased towards having a woman representing them. Why? Because of things like gender stereotypes. There is a notion that women are are more emotional and less able to make decisive moves during a crisis.
Yeah.
So we have a situation whereby most people in the community or communities are more than likely willing to back a man. So other than that, we have things like some women lack communication skills, education.
But I thought women were more better at communication and everything.
No, it's because you see, most women have actually been nurturers. So because we are seen as nurturers, we are not given a chance to develop our communication skills, because communication skills are totally different from academics. Yes, they could be part and parcel, but having a woman learning to be able to express themselves or to be able to make a point, the most opportunities are actually given to men. So most women, by and large, lack a good number of women lack communication skills, education, exposure, lack of access to information, and political capital to be able to give them a stand to make a competitive bid for elective office. So other than that, we have situations where you have a good number, like we discussed earlier, a good number of parties deciding to have men take on the lead roles, and yet women, for example, we are more transformative, or what we have transformational leadership is more natural to us than men. Why? Because of the fact that we are naturals, we are more able or more positioned to transform both mentees plus even the community as compared to men.
But now, Dr. Christine, you know that. How do women out there move past that, so that they can actually take front row seats in all these things, the politics, elective politics, maybe even just at their workplaces and all these things? How do we break this timidity? How do we break the stigma and the biases that people have in the community?
Actually, that's a good question. It starts with stepping out. It's as simple as that. It could be a young girl in my community, in my constituency in Akawa West. It starts with being, let's say, vying for head prefect, or going for speakership, or the club director, or the club president. So these are platforms that actually are stepping stones to things that are bigger. So for example, if I'm going to look back at my life, this is not the first time that I've been a leader. I've been a leader throughout school. As you know, I actually am nurtured, and I'm a citizen and a native of Nakawa West. I went to school.
I didn't know.
In Nakawa West.
I didn't know.
Okay, be informed.
Olisite born.
No, I'm actually Nakawa West born.
Nakawa West born. Yes. You studied there.
Yes.
You've grown up there. Yes. You're working there.
Yes. Yes.
So how true is this for anyone? Candidate. You're the only one. You're the only one I've had.
Candidate that is better than I am. So if you actually did a census, or you went through each and every one that is vying for the seat in Nakawa West, there is no one that actually beats me, because I know.
You grew up there. Also, money, like
all the hiding places, all the meeting joints.
And there's been that place has been characterized with crimes. All right, Dr. Christine, as we go for a short break, what should a woman out there do to be at the center of this whole thing?
Just before we were discussing about stepping out.
Yes, yes.
It could be in minor roles.
Yes.
Of head prefect of a school.
Exactly.
A deputy prefect. It could be.
I wouldn't vote for a girl to be my head prefect.
You see, now that is the gender bias.
Yes.
I'm talking about.
Yes.
And since you've mentioned it on
national TV,
it actually shows that that is the kind of narrative that I am actually here to change.
Correct.
So to the girls in Nakawa West, it is for each and every one of those ladies, each and every one of those girls to step out in whatever role it is. It could be speakership within the school. It could be president of a club. It could be
youth councillor bano.
It could be that. It could be a leader in a scripture union or in church. Because you see, each and every one of those positions actually mentor. They provide platforms to mentor ladies, to mentor girls in communication, in you see, if you're able to take charge of a small group, then it is much easier taking charge of a bigger group. So there is no way a person can trust you with the affairs and decisions of a bigger group if you've never been in charge of a small group. So the first thing is to step out.
Okay, we're going for a short break, but now Dr. Chris, no sente zokuleka ku graduation no kufiirwa na bichi, because MPs are always giving out on those things.
Sente ni nyingi nnyo.
Dr. Christina Wagambia ina sente nyingi. Now do not go away, the desk actually returns in a bit.